All right, well, a couple of special guests with me tonight, and it's Billy Shepherd, the 1968 Mr. Basketball from Carmel High School. He's got his Carmel sweatshirt on tonight, even though I know he's in a warmer climate than we are right now in Indiana. And then also Trey Page, Billy's grandson, who's off to a great start this season at Sheridan, a sophomore. And we'll talk to Trey about his season so far. But Billy, first I wanted to ask you, kind of a cool ceremony coming on Saturday. Carmel hosts Westfield in what should be a great basketball game, but also your dad's going to be honored with the court being named after him. And your dad, I remember writing about him when he passed away. I believe it was 2019, and all of his accomplishments as a player, as a coach, and obviously having kids who went on to have great success. But also the athletic director for a long time at Carmel High School. And, it's got to be a cool honor for you to see him, be honored this way on Saturday.
For sure, Kyle. It's in the state of Indiana to have a court named after you, a court that he coached on for 11 or 12 years and where he was athletic director for over 35 years at the high school. It's quite an honor, no doubt.
When you think back to your time, Billy, and he was your high school coach, and it was funny too because I think you were the first. Were you guys the first two father-son Indiana All-Stars? If I remember correctly, that I think that's correct.
Yes, that is correct.
He was a 1945 Indiana All-Star at Hope High School, which that's the very early days of Indiana All-Stars. I think probably maybe the fifth or sixth year it even existed, but did he talk much about his playing career growing up, or did you hear much about what kind of player he was?
He shared quite a few things with the family as we started playing. He talked about hope, getting to the Sweet 16 when it was one class. I think he had his senior class had 17 people in it, and the high school only had 90. So to get to the final 16 in the state during the one class tournament, that was something that he was very proud of, no doubt. And then after he played at Hope, he went to IU his freshman year. A lot of people don't know that. And then transferred to Butler after that freshman season, finished out 3 years there. He wanted to become a coach, and he felt like the best situation would be to play for Tony Henkel. He was known for putting coaches out throughout the state. So that's why he did that.
And that's a really cool connection, the Tony Hinkle part of it, who you ended up playing for after your playing career. But Trey, I don't know if you obviously know the history of what your grandpa did as a player, but the crazy thing to me is he did all this without a 3-point line, which I'm sure he would have liked to have had that, but hard to believe. I guess when you hear about your grandpa's playing career, what do you hear the most, or what do you hear from people?
How great of a scorer he was, how great of a facilitator, and how great of a passer he was. Just all around great.
And how much do you, Billy? Are you able to get to Trey's games quite a bit during the season?
Yes, we try. We've got a granddaughter that plays at Carmel. That's a senior. Izzy Shepherd plays at Carmel, so they do have some games, on the same evenings, but. Yes, we'll see 3 quarters live of both of their seasons, and then if we can't make it, luckily for us, the Bragg Network in Sheridan, they have all their games streamed, and so we can watch that, and we can do the same with Carmel and Izzy.
And Trey, I know you obviously you grew up with. I kind of grew up in the time where the 3-pointer became something that was actually in the high school game. So I was kind of a crossover. But for you grew up with the 3-point line, and you probably could never imagine any different than that. But I wrote your stat. You're averaging 16.2 points a game, shooting about 40% from the 3-point line this year. You guys are off to an 8-2 start, I know, to start this year. And I guess just what, from your perspective, what kind of season were you kind of looking forward to this year? And how do you guys feel like you're playing as a team right now?
Well, at the start of the season, I knew we were going to be a pretty good team because we got our 3 seniors, Damon, Caleb, and Carson. If we didn't have them, then we wouldn't have the start we would have now. Caleb and Damon are one of the best players I've ever played with. They dish out the ball, they score the ball at an effective rate, And Carson is just a good defensive player and a good inside-out passer.
And with this start, I know you guys lost to Park Heritage, a pretty close game. And Park Heritage, obviously, they're off to a great start as well. Had a great season last year, made a deep run in the tournament. But did that maybe, even maybe give you guys maybe a little bit more confidence, knowing you can play with a team like that in a team that's very highly ranked and highly thought of in the state?
Oh, going to the game, I knew it would be a tough game to play, but I already had the confidence of playing a better team, and I would like to play better teams because those give me more confidence throughout the season.
And Billy, what have you seen, or what as a grandpa, what kind of advice do you provide Trey, or do you try to stay out of it, or what's kind of your role helping your grandkids out?
I think as a former player, sometimes it's difficult to stay out of the conversation when you're seeing a lot of games. What I tend to forget sometimes is he's just a sophomore. And as I look back at my career, I remember a lot more about my career when I was a senior in high school or when I was in college, et cetera. So the one thing I need to keep in mind that, to become a good basketball player takes a lot of hard work, and it's a process. It's not the 100-meter dash. It's the mile run, so to speak. So, Trey's real good at taking instruction. I try not to overdo it. He's got great coaches up there at Sheridan, so he's in good hands, and I feel comfortable. It's exciting going to watch the games, and sometimes it's not exactly like you want it to be, but that's athletics.
That's right, and you grew up in obviously a different time where it wasn't like youth sports has even changed in the last decade a lot, I would say. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do year round. For better or worse, it's kind of become a big business. But Billy, kind of describe you're growing up. Obviously, your dad's around the game. Your brother plays a couple years behind you as well, and both of you end up winning Mr. Basketball, which is still crazy to me to even think about that accomplishment. But what was your experience like growing up around basketball, and how much of I'm sure it was a huge part of your life growing up, but what was it like for you just coming up in that age in the 60s?
Well, it was a great experience. Dad started off down in Mitchell, Indiana, the first 9 years of his career. And I had my first basketball uniform when I was 3 or 4 years old. So I was like the mascot of the team, and I would sit on the bench during the games and be out on the floor at the center circle when they were warming up. So, that you fast forward to when I turned 10, 11, 12 years old, going on scouting trips with my dad and his assistant, Eric Clark, and, just talking about games and talking about situations that come up during the game. It was just, there was a lot of basketball involved, no doubt about it.
And what's cool too is not only you went on to have obviously a really good college career, and then went on to have an even more interesting experience, I would think, in the professional ranks, where you got to play with a guy named Wilt Chamberlain, who a lot of not a lot of people probably can say that, but just what was that experience like? Playing with him, and looking back at that, that's got to be a highlight for you. Even beyond high school and college, to be able to play in the ABA.
Sure, and you brought something up there about the ABA. It was also the first time I was able to play with a 3-point line, because I'd always kind of looked forward to that if I would have been, hopefully good enough to get to the pros. And I was fortunate enough to get there for 3 years. The first year I played at Virginia, and was a teammate with Dr. J. Julius Serving. And then, of course, Chamberlain was the player coach at San Diego. And then the third year I played in Memphis, and that year I did lead the league in 3-point percentage. So that I finally kind of went out on a high note.
Now, how did it's interesting because that's, the 3-pointer obviously was something unique to the ABA at that time. But if you look back at your high school and college, were you shooting? I mean, did you shoot a lot from that range anyway?
For sure. Like the high school line now, I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but there were probably, 20 or 30 games in high school where I took 20 field goal attempts that would have been behind that line in a single game. So, I always say if we would have had that line in 67 and 68, we might have gotten some state championships.
Well, that's I've heard that about Rick Mount too. I think they counted one time in the a game against Iowa where he would have had maybe 13 threes in that game. So but I know the obviously you didn't get the extra credit for that back then, but how much of a advantage was that once you got to the ABA? Because obviously I know you were also you had a lot of assists too. I know you weren't just a 3-point shooter; you were kind of a facilitator, but you had that range obviously, and you were able to make it pay off once you got to the pros.
Well, I think it's something that you develop over time. I'm not saying it's a God-given gift, but some people do have the luxury of stepping out a little further on the court and shooting the ball. And it was something I really enjoyed working on, no doubt about that. I know when we played, when I played at Butler, they didn't have the 3-point line, but they played an ABA All-Star game there one year. And so they put the line down for the game. So once they took it up, you could still see where that ABA line was. So I remember numerous times, trying to get out there and just get some shots up and imagine what if.
And Trey, that's obviously it's something you do really well. Has shooting the three kind of always been something that you were just kind of good at, or what kind of game did you kind of have growing up, playing basketball?
Oh, well, back in middle school, I really didn't have a shooting talent. It was like something I got over time after working on it, after knowing I would want to play basketball for the rest of my life. And just growing up, I just been playing basketball my whole life, so I just haven't had that shooting talent to where I had to be working on it every day, more repetitions.
And when did it kind of click for you, I guess? Or I know it's something you got still 2+ years of high school left, to go here. But when did that kind of start clicking for you? And how, just and the second part of that, your freshman year, you kind of come in and make an impression right away. Is that something you expected to be able to do?
Yeah, it was something I expected be able to do because I knew I've been putting in the work, I've been making sacrifices, I've been putting it all out there. And then to answer your other question, I started recognizing my range at going into my freshman year, the summer, because that's when I started getting the confidence of shooting the ball and having the right coaches, like Coach Bowen and Coach Sears at Sheridan, just helped me out every step of the way.
And you mentioned Coach Bowen. He's I don't know if Billy, you were close. I think he's maybe a couple of years behind you in age, but he was a guy who, is from there, coached at Hamilton Heights for a long time. And then, comes to Sheridan a couple of years ago. But Trey, kind of how would you describe Coach Bowen's style and what has he brought to Sheridan basketball? It's a program, obviously, or a school that, has a long football history. And I know it does have a good basketball history too, but maybe not in recent years. But what has Coach Bowen kind of done there that's maybe worked for you guys?
Well, he criticizes us about tradition and making Sheridan basketball tradition better than it ever was. Just winning games and executing our plan.
Billy, did you know Coach Bowen before?
Yeah, I've known Bill for a long time. He played high school ball at Sheridan. Like you said, he was 3 or 4 years behind me, closer to David's age. And he spent some time at Lebanon High School as an assistant coach under Jim Rosensteel, after the Mount era over there, after Bill graduated from Hanover. So Bill, we go back a long way. He's one of those throwbacks, basketball means a lot to him. And, those kids up there playing at Sheridan, very fortunate to have a coach like Bill that, cares about the game, cares about the kids, and he's able to instill a lot of good qualities in them, just besides basketball itself.
Billy, when you think back to your high school career, I know there's some games that you're definitely known for in your high school career. But when you think back to those times, are there any games in particular that stand out to you, or any favorite memories that you have of playing in high school?
Well, I know the very first game I played in as a freshman starter, I was lucky to play as a freshman as well as Trey was able to do that last year. The first two times I touched the ball, I kicked it off my foot out of bounds off the dribble. So it took me a little while to get going. But yeah, a couple of games stand out. My sophomore year, my dad had been at Carmel 58, and this would have been the end of the 66 season. I hit a shot at the buzzer to beat Noblesville my sophomore year, 58-56 in the final game of the sectional. And so that one, it was Carmel's first sectional win in 41 years. So that game, that may be the biggest moment for me in Carmel basketball. The second thing that stands out was the night I was lucky enough to get 70 points against Brownsburg. And, that's something you never forget. In fact, it was January 6, 1968 was when that happened. So it's hard to believe it was, that long ago, but it's still very fresh in my memory. You walk in that Carmel gym, it's a beautiful place. It's really basically the same as it was back in 1965 through 68. And there's just a lot of great memories playing with my brother David that my senior year. And then, of course, playing for my father, and just the community was so much behind the team and the game.
And if I remember right, I think Brownsburg scored 69 points that night, and you scored 70. So I think Billy outscored Brownsburg that in that game by himself. But and I think, Billy, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, I'll get back on video here, but yeah, I'm still here.
Sorry. Okay, no problem. Yeah, but if that is correct, isn't it, Billy? Didn't Brown? It was 70-69 individually.
Yeah, that is correct. And I want to say also that year Brownsburg did win their sectional, so they were a decent ball club. So it was just one of those games. I never scored in the 50s or 60s, but I got 70 one night, and 46 of them came in the second half.
When you hear stories like that, Trey, does that even seem possible? That's 70 points in a high school game seems without the 3-point line. I mean, that's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. Like, if he had a 3-point line, it could have been 100.
Exactly. And then also, you mentioned that Carmel gym, and I know, it is one of my favorite places to cover games and watch games. And, I guess, Billy, what's it mean to you to see your dad's name go on there? And it's obviously a special place to him when he was there coaching and as athletic director and spent many years there. But what's it mean to you to see that happen for him?
Well, it means everything, not only to me, but the entire family, to have my dad recognized. My mom's name won't be on there, but she had just as much to do with it as my dad did, over the years, being the wife of a coach and an athletic director. And it means so much, because I know what basketball meant to him. And I know even later on, as he became athletic director and actually led Carmel to their first 41 state championships as an athletic director. He cared about kids, he cared about sports, and he did things the right way. And it was more than just wins and losses. It was teaching life lessons and helping kids through tough situations. He was a great leader of young men.
Yeah, and you mentioned something earlier, and I did, that the sectional championship, and it's hard to believe now, Carmel hadn't won a sectional in 41 years until your sophomore year. But the tradition really obviously ramped up when you were there, and it's still there now. And Coach Hetty had a great success there, and now Ryan Osborne's had great success there. But yeah, it's hard to believe, looking back, what was Carmel like back then? I mean, was it considered a, kind of a power program, or when you were getting there and he was starting to coach there, what was kind of the view of Carmel basketball?
Well, when we moved there in the late 1950s, I think I was looking here recently, like in 1960, Carmel had a population of 1,440 people. And by the time I graduated in 68, by 1970, it was up to about 6,700 people. So Carmel, it was a small community, but they loved their sports. They loved basketball. My dad was instrumental in getting forming the Carmel Dads Club and that type of thing, a feeder system. So it all kind of worked hand in hand. You could not get a seat. I mean, you can imagine back in, 67, 68, there were no no seats available, and season ticket holders, not all of them got into the sectional. So it was just a very unique time. And I must say this, that in 1969, after I graduated, you think there's never going to be someone to replace you. But in 69, after I graduated, my dad always reminded me of that. They went undefeated the next year. They went 20-0. So, so that's what I'm always telling all my grandkids, basketball, all sports, soccer, whatever it might be, they're short term. So enjoy them, do the best you can, and they forget you pretty quickly once you're done.
Well, he had another Shepherd there to help him out, so I'll say that. But
right,
Trey, I know Sheridan, definitely not the size, obviously, of Carmel as far as the number of students or anything like that, but was up there last fall. Some really nice facilities. Some new things they're doing there at Sheridan. Just what's it like there playing at Sheridan, and kind of how do you feel about the future of the program there?
Well, first of all, there's just great people there. Everyone loves to help everyone else out, and the basketball tradition is very good there. And yeah, just the coaching staff, I really liked them, and yeah, just a good atmosphere.
And what are some of the kind of the upcoming games you're looking forward to? What's kind of the goals you have for the rest of this season, Trey?
I'm looking forward to the Taylor game because they beat us last year by, I think, a little bit, probably a point. But I knew we could have beat them, so I'm ready for them this year, and definitely the sectional because I know we can go pretty far.
I know Taylor's off to Bob Wannell, the coach there. He was previously at Tinley and had a lot of success there, and I think he won his 250th game just the other night. I can't remember which night it was, but just recently they're undefeated so far this season, so that'll be a good matchup for you. And what's your sectional look like, Trey? Who else you got in there this year?
I got Lapel and Tipton. Those are like the main schools that are in there. I don't remember the rest, but Lapel and Tipton are the only top teams that are in there.
Taylor's in that same sectional.
Yeah, Taylor's in this sectional. Yeah.
Okay, got you. That is a good one.
You can see I told Trey not to look ahead too far.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I know Tipton, obviously, Trey, Grady Carpenter there,
Yep.
great player. Lapel with the judges, they're a very quality program. That sectional will be a good one. Frankton always a traditional strong program too. So definitely will have your hands full there. But looks like 8-2's got to be one of the better starts in recent years for Sheridan. And I know you have big hopes for the future there. But what's your team look like beyond this year, Trey? Will you have much coming back in the future?
We have good depth coming back. Some of the sophomores right now in my class, they're gonna be built up pretty well. They just more practice, more repetition. Yeah, we're gonna be looking pretty good.
Well, I'm not putting any pressure on you here, but there is some symmetry to all this. Billy, Sheridan has not won a sectional since 1983, so that would be 42 years. So maybe some symmetry with Billy, 41 years, and that was your sophomore year too, right? So
yes, that's
only off by 1 year potentially, but that could be something. That was maybe a story for me in the future if you guys get it done. But Billy, what's kind of your advice to Trey, or what do you as he goes on into the second half of his sophomore year, what are you kind of hoping for him to be able to accomplish here down the stretch?
It's kind of like we talked about earlier. When you're freshman, sophomore, even your junior year in high school, it's a learning experience. Every game's different. The atmosphere is a little bit different. So, I tell him not to get, don't get too high when things are going great. And when things aren't going great, don't get down on yourself. Keep plugging away. Be a good teammate, be a leader, and listen to your coaches, because in the end, those are the guys that you've got to satisfy.
And Billy, you were also a high school coach, not too long ago, maybe a decade ago or right around there. Right. But what was your experience like being a high school coach?
Kyle, I was lucky enough to coach at maybe two of the greatest basketball schools in the state of Indiana. I coached 1 year at Muncie Central, And I thought I could coach because we won 21 games. And, I found out when I went to Marion, it wasn't quite as easy, a few years later. But I ended up coaching 2 years at Marion after that. And, it's high school basketball. I mean, I love basketball. I can go to a high school game, boys or girls, and really just enjoy it and watch the atmosphere, watch the kids, watch their attitudes, watch their skills. And the game hasn't changed a whole lot in the last 10 years. I always say the kids are getting bigger, they run faster, they jump higher. But the team that puts the ball in the basket the most, as Coach Henkel always said, will usually end up winning the game.
Well, one thing I always enjoy talking to you, you keep up with the game. You don't, I know some of the, I get it. As we get older, the view from the past always looks better. And maybe sometimes we think it's better than it actually was, even sometimes. But you really keep up with it and seem to appreciate the current players as well. What is that fun for you to kind of keep up with the game even now, years after you played it?
It really is, Kyle. I really enjoy following the game. It's, basketball was, like I said earlier, was a part of my life starting at a very young age. And, my dad always took us to the Hall of Fame banquets and, scouting and just being in that locker room with players. So, I've got a true love and passion for the game. And it's, not a day goes by that I don't talk to someone in some way about the game of basketball. And I think it's a great learning tool for young people. There's a lot of lows, and some highs, more lows than highs, but it's a great game. And I think it teaches so many life lessons.
Trey, what do you hear about your grandpa, not only as a player, but as a person? He, always seems like he's got a positive outlook. Is that kind of how he is with you?
Oh yeah, he always tries to makes me better every chance he gets.
Well, awesome. We'll look forward to this Saturday, Billy. I guess I think the snow is done, at least for a while. So you plan on making your way up here in the next couple of days?
Yep. We're down in Florida until Thursday, but we're coming back. My granddaughter plays at Center Grove Thursday night. We'll get to watch Trey on Friday night, and then we'll be in that Carmel gym on Saturday night with a big celebration.
Awesome. Well, I really enjoyed this, guys. Billy Shepherd and Trey Page again, grandson of the 1968 Mr. Basketball at Carmel and sophomore at Sheridan. Trey's off to a great series. Like I said earlier, he's averaging 16.2 points per game. Really balanced, Trey, too. I should have, I know you mentioned a lot of the guys, but I think you've got at least 4 guys averaging double figures so far this year, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Maybe even 5. Could be close to 5, but very balanced team. Obviously, that's helpful at any level of basketball. But again, appreciate both of you guys coming on with me, and really enjoyed this.
Kyle, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Kyle.
You bet. Thanks, Trey.
Thank you.